Okay, good morning. It's Joan Jack with Brave Indigenous Conversations. And as usual, I'm going to start by reading a piece of writing that I really love. Brave Space. Together we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space. We all exist in the real world. We all carry scars and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not we will not be perfect. We will not always it will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together and we will work on it side by side. That was written by Mickey Scott B. Jones. And I just love it. I absolutely love it.
That is
Just
incredible.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Just before
Yeah.
starting the podcast, it came to me. So I'm really happy for the listeners. I have a few regular listeners. I'm really happy that Shelly Denny is with us today. And as is been my practice, I just let people invite them and invite. I'm tired. Introduce themselves. So just share with us who you are, Shelly.
Hey, Bonjour, Anine. Good morning, everybody. I'm Shelly Denny, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm an enrolled member of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe, though I did not grow up there. I grew up in urban areas and small towns. And I'm super nomadic. I've lived coast to coast from DC to Hawaii. Um, Quite the traveler, wanderer. I'm a doctor of East Asian medicine. I work full time as an acupuncturist for Indian Health Service, providing non pharmacological pain management
Hmm,
to Indian country.
that's so amazing. There's more, Shelly.
There
Come on.
is more. What else? Okay, I'm a lifelong biker, which is how one of the ways I know Joan Jack. I grew up in a motorcycle club. My dad was the president of a motorcycle club, so I grew up on the back of a motorcycle. I am going on. I don't know. Oh yeah, I've been sober since 1995 also, so I'm in recovery, clean and sober for 28 years now. When I was 2 weeks sober, I bought a guitar and I just like channeled all that angst and I don't know how to live without drugs and alcohol or deal with my feelings or people into playing music. And then the next year, I got a little motorcycle. And so I've been riding since I was 1 year sober. For my 21st birthday, I gave myself a brand new Harley Davidson off the showroom floor. And I've just been, as I say, haven't let go of the throttle since.
Wow, that's so amazing. Do you have any guess at how many, you say miles down in the States, like how many miles you put on?
I think it's probably close to 300,000 miles I've ridden.
What?
Yeah, multiple cross country trips, a lot of solo trips. I used to be my commuter. I've been riding to Sturgis since the 90s, which is where I am right now. I'm in Sturgis, South Dakota. It's the rally time.
Mm. I love your T-shirt. I've got to get one of those, and I got to go on the ride one of
Yeah.
these times.
This is from the MMIP awareness ride that happened in Maui on May 5th of this year with the
Mm.
Medicine Wheel Ride and the Leaders of Maui and some other organizations down there. And please pray for Maui right now if you haven't seen. It is on fire. It
Oh,
is, there's a severe devastation going on. There's fatalities. There's loss of everything in Maui right now. It's a combination of drought, wildfire, and hurricane winds just made a mix for
oh my God,
some
that's
real
so.
devastation there.
Huh. Is that where Lisa is?
Lisa is on her way home right now. She just left Sturgis yesterday. We did the medicine wheel ride here on
Okay.
Sunday. And so she's on her way home, but I'm sure she's like deeply affected by this because she lives in Maui, not in Lahaina where the fire is, but it's a small town, really. It's a small community. Everybody knows everyone.
Wow.
Mhm. And
So
everyone is Ohana. And
awesome.
Ohana means family.
Nice. Oh, nice. I thought it was like a tribal name or something. That's great. So, tell us about the medicine wheel ride out of Sturgis. That's so exciting. Well, it's sad,
Yeah. So,
but
well, I mean, let's start at the beginning, Joan, which is how I met
okay.
you also, because in 2019, we started the actual like imprint of the medicine wheel ride on Turtle Island. For anybody who doesn't know, In 2019. It was about 12,000 miles, which is what is it, 17,000 kilometers?
Yeah, yeah, around 17,000 kilometers.
Yeah, and we wanted to imprint that shape with our motorcycle tires and our prayers. Joan started it in Winnipeg, Canada. She rounded up a little team of supporters and riders and helpers and went started that whole outer circle from Winnipeg, Ottawa, New York, DC, the South, Texas. And
Yeah,
then we had other women ride in from the four directions with prayer bundles. And we met in Potawatomi country in Topeka, Kansas, where the Women's Freedom Rally was happening, where they were working to break the record of most female motorcyclists in one place. And we set up a booth there. We had a little ceremony there
yeah,
to pray for missing and murdered Indigenous people and to start to build a movement of awareness and community support and involvement.
yeah.
Yeah. And then Joan went back to Texas and, or was it Oklahoma, and
It was in
completed that
Texas. We
circle.
went
Yeah.
down to Texas. Yeah,
Yeah, we went through a little bit of Mexico too and said our prayers in Mexico for the women of Mexico. 10 a
yeah,
day is the statistic that in Mexico, 10 women a day go missing. In the United States, it's every 3 days. And in Canada, every 2.7 days, an Indigenous woman goes missing. And from what I've gathered, because the statistics and the data are still not really clear, but it seems like there's even more men, Indigenous men, that go missing than
yeah.
women in the United States. I don't know about Canada, what
Oh,
that
yeah.
data looks like.
Yeah, we have a similar situation. We're
Mm-hmm.
all being taken, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone pretends it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Canadians. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for here, now we the Medicine Wheel Ride has a store on Etsy, and we can ship to Canada also if anybody wants, red hand sticker, shirts. That's pretty much what we have on there right now. All of that money goes towards family support and more public awareness campaigns. And this week, I can tell you that as I was walking down Main Street, I had to move my motorcycle, and then my house host here said, "Oh, get me a corn dog from that corn dog stand." And I was like, "I don't see it. Let me walk around the block a little more and find the corn dog stand." And when I was there, I saw these two white ladies like looking down, and I saw that there was an Indigenous woman sitting on the ground, and she was drunk, and she had been partying with her boyfriend. They got into a fight. He left her, but I don't know the whole story, but that's what she said. And I was like, "I need to get you off this street. This is Sturgis, South Dakota. This is the rally. I
Yeah,
feel safe here. I grew up in a club. I'm totally comfortable in white spaces, even when it's all white men, because sometimes I think I am one because I was raised by a single white father, and you just sort of like, oh yeah. Um, but I'm a brown woman to the world. So anyway, I was like, I'm going to get you to a hotel room. Although I feel safe here, I know what people are capable of when they
yeah.
see an opportunity. And I couldn't leave her there. And so we picked her up, my husband and I was like, I said, "I'm going to take you to a hotel room." And she said, "No, I got this guy. I found this guy. He's going to take me." And I was like, "No, he's not. I'm going to take you." She's like, "No, no, why would you help me?" And I was like, "Because I am you. And I
Mm,
really feel that way. I am her.
yeah,
It's just the only difference between us is time, because that was me 28 years ago."
yeah.
And there was one hotel room left in Sturgis. It was $400, but that's what the organization exists for, because we would rather pay $400 to keep this woman safe tonight than whatever expenses were to accrue if she were to go missing or worse. And those things happen. And we talked about it the next day, because I went back to the hotel to talk to her in the morning and get her to her sister's place and hear more of the story and talk about what happened. And she's like, "Yeah, I don't usually, you know, even come to Sturgis, but her boyfriend wanted to." And,
Mm.
it's a party, there's concerts, there's a lot going on. But
There is a lot going
yeah,
on. It's
you can get a little carried away, go a little too far. But there's a lot of people here, though, who are watching for traffickers, maybe more than there are traffickers here, just people just looking for an easy opportunity.
mm. I would like to share. I've never shared this before. How I ended up meeting you. Just
Okay.
the first part of it. So I had been in. So some people know that I was the lawyer. I am the lawyer in Canada who filed the first class action for Indian day school students that were left out of the residential school, and I did that in 2009. And I had been working on that for many years, and the case was taken over by a large law firm. And I was not involved in the settlement or anything I wanted to be, but I wasn't. And my offer to help was politely declined. They just wanted all the data, the 10,000 names I had collected. And so um, we had, just before I heard your name the first time, we had been in a hearing to where the court was considering, among other things, the fees that were going to be paid to the new firm, the big firm that took my case, which they say is a different case, but whatever. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And so, anyways, we had been in that hearing, and for 18 months of work, the court approved $53 million in legal fees for that firm for 18 months of work. And the judge agreed with that firm and Canada, who had argued that I had done nothing and that there was no other. Of course, my name was never really mentioned, but everyone in the courtroom knew they were talking about my work.
Mm-hmm.
And when my name was mentioned, it was kind of wasn't kind of, it was derogatory. That yeah, really nasty stuff was said about me in the court. And so I had just left that experience where 8 years of work, basically my life's work, had been formally rubbed out. And I was devastated. Like, I knew it was coming. But, we all know when something's coming, but when it actually comes, it's just unbelievable. And that morning, I was sad. I'm ashamed to say I start my morning, looking at my phone like millions of other people do. And there was a message from Laurel Johnson, who rides a Dyna Switchback. I ride a Dyna Switchback. And she's a white lady who goes to the same nail place as me in Winnipeg. And she'd sent me the link to your video. And she said, "Hey, Joan, I think this is for you. You need to watch this." And I was like, okay. And so Brian, my husband, was lying beside me, and I watched it and I heard you. And I thought, I knew, I just felt it in my soul, my say, like my stomach, like I just felt it right there that I was going. And my husband was watching it with me, watching your video, and your about what you visioned, and what your dream, and the dream of the women that work with you, and all of that. And I just looked at him, and he said, "You're going, eh?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going." And then I reposted your link on my Facebook and said, "I'm going." And another woman I know from the 2018 Wounded Knee Run, I knew her, I'd met her down there, and we'd visited a couple of times, but her name is Charmaine. And she said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know, I'm going." I don't, she said, "Well, you can't go alone." And I was like, "I don't know, I'm going." And then I thought, what should I do? And so I thought, well, you had invited anyone interested to call you, and you'd put your cell number there. And so I called. And do you remember that conversation? I do.
Vaguely.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It's burned in my mind because it was the morning after that court.
Mm-hmm.
And you were so friendly, and you're so well spoken. And I said, well, I just want to help. How can I help? And you said something like, well, we have a group of us women who are bringing in the tobacco bundles from the four directions, but we don't have anybody that will be able to ride the entire outer rim of the medicine wheel, because we're all working, and we
Mm-hmm.
come from different places in life. And I'm sort of and I had just been kicked to the curb, my legal career done. And so I said, well, I'm actually free, I can do that. So I just did, and it was so spiritual. Like, I just followed the spirit every step of the way, like we all did. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
Charmaine and I rode for 54 days.
Mm-hmm.
54 days, unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think you thought it was going to take 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was like,
It took a
no
month and a half,
clue, no clue.
almost 2 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
never.
but it was incredible. And I saw actually a live stream that you did right after you found out the news about that decision that they had made. And I remember you saying, this is what happens to people is you do all the groundwork, you lay all the groundwork out, and then someone comes along and just plucks it
Yeah.
and it's theirs. They
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
And I had something similar had just happened to me also. Like I had just poured months and months and heart and soul into something, and someone just said, "Oh no, this is mine." And I was just like, for me at that point in time, because I was so focused on this missing and murdered issue, I was like, I can't, I can't be bothered still trying to fight for something that I know I can rebuild again in another way. But what was most important, come hell or high water, is that the medicine wheel ride happens,
Yeah.
and
Everyone
it
worked
was
together.
tough.
It was so good. Yeah.
Yeah, following the spirit, exactly. All the people who came together, it was like so magical. And anytime an obstacle arose, a pendulum would swing and something fantastic would open up and keep the circle moving.
Yeah. It was so
And
amazing.
a lot of awareness was raised. And I can tell you from that time, um, we got messages from a girl who wrote to us and said, "I think I'm being trafficked in my own home, and
Oh,
no one will help me." I think her boyfriend said he wouldn't let her leave, but she was able to write to us. And what do we know? We're just women on motorcycles who are indigenous and allies, and are saying somebody needs to pay attention to what's going on. We need to talk about what's going on, because a
hmm,
lot of trafficking happens in a much more subtle kind of a way. I mean, just like that, people are pimping out their, you think that's your boyfriend, and you think you're just doing your boyfriend a favor. He's trafficking you, you
yeah.
know, trading you off so he can get this or that. And so we got her in touch with the human trafficking hotline, followed up with her. She talked with them. They gave her like a case number and, what can we do? And didn't you meet somebody who said they were going to reopen a cold case?
I don't have a memory of that. Maybe I did.
Yeah, yeah, because I kept notes because I wanted us to keep all
Okay.
of those stories we were meeting of the people and the families, and that the news had come, and it was when the circle was maybe 75% complete, that I got a message back that said, after families started showing up to those news conferences with the bikers,
Yeah. Yeah.
and one of the families got a call from a detective who said that they were going to reopen their family's cold
Oh,
case
yeah.
after hearing their
Yeah.
story. So there was always, we got a little bit of flack from people. What are women
Oh,
showing
yeah.
off on their motorcycles going to do for missing and murdered Indigenous
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
And da, 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 da.
I
It
learned
did a
so
lot.
much. Yeah, I learned so much. Like it was such a I'm still growing, and it's really, that ride for me was really like the saying where you drop that pebble in the pond and then the ripples keep going on. Like I'm still feeling the ripples of growth from that experience, and how it impacted my life. Like every day different. There's hardly a day goes by when a different memory of the 17,000 kilometers somewhere doesn't come fleeting through my existence. It's so powerful. Yeah.
Hmm.
I was thinking about what you were just saying about the flack, like um, people like me who have a big personality, and like you have a big personality. I don't know about you, but I've gotten a lot of pushback, or meanness, and whatever, and it's been a struggle for me um, to learn to live with that,
Hmm.
to just accept that. And
Hmm.
I was thinking about my need for approval. It boils
Yeah.
down to my need for approval. Like,
Yeah.
as long as I have a space in my heart and my mind for my haters' approval, then I'm going to be hurt, because hello, they don't.
Yeah. It's a real obstacle too, because I have the same thing, and it really creates, it inhibits what I know I could do, because I get caught up in the distraction of people misunderstanding me or even mishearing what I've said, and then they're off to the races because, well, in my experience, as an Indigenous woman, the statistics, 90% of us have experienced violence. We have generational trauma. We have boarding school trauma, foster care trauma, racism, all kinds of things, all kinds of abuse. Almost all of us are living our lives the best that we can with all of that stuff in tow.
Yeah.
And then something happens, and it's not that thing that happens, it's that thing plus all this other shit that has happened too
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
bringing forward.
Yeah.
And the healing, it's a long process. And I know I have to give myself and other people grace also,
Wow.
because I know what everybody is carrying
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
still trying to move forward with the goal.
Yeah. And that you bring to mind Laura John, who we met in Portland when we were doing the Outer
Mm-hmm.
Rim. We came up to Portland, and I'm still friends with Laura. That's the other thing. I made friends that I'm not many, but there are a few people that when I make a friend, I make a friend for life. And so, thick or thin, hell or high water,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the kind of if I'm your friend. If for me, friendship is a decision. I've
Mm-hmm.
decided when I decide, and I've learned to say to people, we can decide to be friends, and that's something we're going to commit to and
Mm-hmm.
work on, so that when we have conflict, we're not going to like bust up. We're going to figure it out, eh? And so
Interesting.
Laura and I still talk to each other every few months, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And I was so impacted by the work that she's done with the city of Portland, and so many things happened in Portland. That was the first time I'd ever really heard in my lived experience about human trafficking. I didn't even have I didn't have that in my mind. I didn't have that in my mind. And then the MMIW women in Portland and the tribes in Portland have are working really hard because of the highway that goes all the way up the west coast is like the corridor for human trafficking,
Yeah.
right from
From
up,
Vancouver to Tijuana,
well, even
like
probably
that whole
from
thing.
the highway of
BC.
tears, from
Mm-hmm.
highway of tears, like all the way up north, that's one of the corridors. And yeah, like I was so impacted in so many ways.
Yeah, and I recall like her saying that people had been overheard, traffickers and pimps had been overheard saying, if you're looking for new girls, go to powwows because no one looks for those girls.
Yeah,
And
that's
that,
that's
if
the
they
memory
know that, we need to know
burned
that.
burned in my mind. I'm so
Hmm.
glad I was kind of thinking, should I say that? Like it was so shocking for me. So I'm so glad you said it. Like I was so
I
shocked that
know.
about the conversation that was taped by police, like a what do you call those? Like a sting operation or whatever. Like
Hmm.
where they'd overheard human traffickers in like way down south somewhere in I don't know where in like the South America saying to their headhunter in the United States, no, just go to PAOs. That's where the healthiest kids are. That's where the healthiest organs are. And those
Oh,
people won't even notice that their kids are missing because it's one big family. They're all just if their kid doesn't show up, they're going to assume they're camping with somebody else, and they're all not drinking, and it's the best place to steal kids. And
awful.
I was just devastated. So I should have a trauma warning. I know
Oh, yeah.
some other fancier podcasts have like all these warnings, but I think people who know me know that, yeah, it's
You're going to get right under the skin. We're going into the
yeah,
wound.
yeah,
That's how
exactly,
you could clean it out and fix it. Yeah,
yeah,
I know. Yeah, we learned a lot. And I've been apprehensive also talking about the things I've learned. But, like I just said, if they know, if the predators know this information or these targets, we
yeah,
as Indigenous people and community members, we need
yeah.
to know that also.
Exactly. Because everyone's just focused on our people who are at their lowest point in their life, which totally makes them vulnerable, 100%. Being sitting on the street drunk and almost passing out, you're definitely in a vulnerable spot,
Hmm.
but they don't, I had no idea the extent to which we are targeted as
Yeah.
property, like literally, like the way that trees are cut down for to build my house. A tree was cut down. um, we are cut down so that our kidney is used somewhere else for someone to live, and we're an expendable uh, renewable resource, and it's
in
terrible.
in the United States, the BIA is under the Department of Interior, which is Land Management and Resource
Oh my god,
Management.
that's so sick. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
The link here is a bit more, they try to pretend there's no link between us and our lands and resources, but there entirely is. Yeah. So
Mhm.
how? So let's talk about the ride that you created at Sturgis that's been created now. There's another
Yeah.
ride, yeah. And why do you?
Yeah.
Why do we create? That was one of the other criticisms. You know what? How does a bunch of, and from my own reserve, I had some men say to me like, "What do you think you're doing? You're just a rich bitch, riding around on a fancy fucking motorcycle, showing off,
Hmm.
and like, why are you doing that? How do you think that helps anybody?"
Hmm.
So maybe talk about that.
Yeah. Well, one thing that makes me think about too is like in too many places there's a stereotype about Native people, like it's negative and it's not based on our skills, our qualities, our innate worth or anything. You are a lawyer, I am a physician, we ride motorcycles, we are community members, we do charity work and philanthropy. We're a lot of things, and a lot of women on this ride are the same thing with master's degrees, with bachelor's degrees, working in a variety of professions. And I think it's really good to showcase our success of who we are as people. We are also this. We're not just like any bad thing, your uncle told you. It's like this is who we are also. So yeah, it's attention getting to see women on motorcycles and then Indigenous women on motorcycles also. And I think being on a motorcycle also, it does something to your spirit and your mind, because the content of MMIW or all these other issues is really heavy. And to be on a motorcycle and help the wind kind of like soothe some of that away helps to decompress and recharge for the next set of stories you're going to hear at the next stop. And so in that way, I think the motorcycle is a really healing tool to do this kind of support work. Secondly, in a place like Sturgis, South Dakota, this motorcycle rally, there are a lot of rides here. Lorna and Lynette both live here. They're both Lakota. And Lorna, we were talking about where should we meet next? And Lorna said, let's just meet here. And my friend Nancy, who is an ally, she's friends with the mayor of Sturgis and she's friends with the
Wow,
rally director. And
nice.
she said, you should make a ride in Sturgis. And we were all kind of a tiny bit reluctant, but then it was like, okay, let's do it. And so Nancy helped to open those doors so we could learn how to create a ride in what has been a predominantly white male space.
Yeah.
And those weren't necessarily our peers, and they're the ones who have like all these different access points to learn how to do these kind of things. But now we're here. This is the fourth year that we have had
Wow.
this ride in Sturgis, starting at Bear Butte with some traditional Lakota land acknowledgement, prayer, bike blessing, song, and community gathering of both Indigenous people and allies, which I
Mm.
am like really, really adamant about the involvement of allies. One, because it takes everybody. Everybody needs to care, and this does affect everybody. It doesn't just
Because this
affect
is
the
human rights.
families.
Because
Mhm.
this is human rights because we're human beings.
True.
That
Yes,
intersect.
exactly. And
Yeah.
here, Indigenous people are 3% of the population. So we need the other 97% with us, behind us, next to us, saying, look, what's going on here is not right. What can I do to stop it?
Mhm.
And that number of allies is growing and growing and growing.
Mm.
So, and also, so we do, there's a registration fee for the ride part. Anybody can come to the prayer in the morning. But if you want to go on the ride and participate in the lunch, there's a registration fee. And all of that money is then used we've put up billboards, made shirts for families, funeral expenses, food. Um, we've plane tickets, bus tickets. There was just a little, you could really call it a human trafficking ring that happened where I live in Arizona, where there were these sober living homes that were
What?
extracting money from like the Medicaid program. I'm not sure what insurance program, where Indigenous people were going into these sober living homes, and these people were getting paid hundreds or thousands of dollars per day per person, and they were just they were recruiting from the reservations, get people to come down there. And there would be dozens of people living in these homes just stacked up. Some of them, they were providing alcohol and drugs. Some, they didn't provide food. They weren't providing the services. So there were credible allegations of fraud. And these homes have been shut down, which then put all these people on the street. Like I heard them say, people say, like, they just threw me out. They threw all my stuff outside. Like, they didn't care. It was another version of human trafficking. People think like it's just sex trafficking, but there are a lot of ways that people get trafficked. In my opinion, all of this, the 60s scoop, the removing Indian children from Indian homes, um, that too is a form
Oh,
of human
totally,
trafficking,
totally.
government sanctioned trafficking to remove Native kids from being Native. And here, the Indian Child Welfare Act was enacted in 1978 to protect Native families, that if a Native child needed to go into a foster home, it would be placed with another Native family. And it would stop that trafficking out into non-Native homes, orphanages, boarding schools, foster care. Um,
Mhm.
and then it was challenged this year, and it was really challenging the sovereignty of Native people in the United States. And by prayers and miracles, and however the laws were written, it was upheld. It was challenged and it was upheld, which is really amazing, to protect um, Indian families. And I think that everybody needs to know that when Native American people are allowed to continue to be intact in our own cultural ways, in our own belief system, in our own traditions, it's not just better for us, it's better for everyone.
Yeah,
Everyone benefits from
yeah,
that.
yeah. But in circling back to the ride out of Sturgis for MMI, is it MMIP or what's the acronym of the ride?
It's all of them. MMIW, MMIP, MMIR. Mhm.
So, and then starts. Where does it start, and where does it?
Starts at Bear Butte, which is in Sturgis. It's a sacred mountain to the local tribes here: Cheyenne, Kiowa, Lakota, and others. And a lot of people go there to pray. Even this week, me and Olivier hiked it yesterday, and there were people from all over the country, bikers, just like making their annual
Mm,
walk up the mountain, because it's an amazing place to say your prayer. This guy from Texas, he was just like, this is my church. He's not
wow.
even native, but he knows it. He feels
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So we start the ride there on Sunday morning. It's always the first Sunday of Sturgis. And it was chosen that way because the Wounded Knee ride ends on Saturday, and it gives people time to come
Mm,
up and hit the medicine wheel ride on Sunday. And then we have an escorted ride where the highway patrol is blocking traffic. So I think it's about 100 miles to Crazy Horse, through the Black Hills, through Sturgis, through Deadwood, through the Black Hills. And we go into Crazy Horse, who's been a sponsor every year also. And we have a lunch provided by them and a program.
hmm. How many
And
how many bikes were involved in the ride this year?
this year, the park ranger told us it was 185 motorcycles.
Oh, that's so
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm going through some health growth, let's call it that, right now. And hopefully next year I told my husband, because we go to the river, like we're moose salmon people, and in the summer we go to the river. And so I'm really conflicted with and so I said to him, you know what? Next year we'll just have to say that as long as I can ride, I'm going to take the 2 weeks off at the beginning of August. Just take that off. I'm going to fly off the river, go to my bike wherever it is, and then go and ride, and then come. So maybe it would turn out to be 3, and then come back to the river and help close up camp, kind of thing. Because I love riding so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we could also talk about some fly and ride options for you too, either here to
Mm,
Sturgis or also in San Diego. We have a ride that happens there too. Um, and that's generally been in May, but San Diego is a great ride also, and we visit a lot of the tribes in Southern California,
wow.
and there's some really interesting
Huh.
stories and culture there also.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, there's so much to learn in life that it's just stating the obvious.
Yeah. And I'll just give a shout out to some others. I know that during the Four Corners rally, which happens in Durango, Labor Day weekend, which is September like 3rd through 5th, there's going to be an MMIP ride there also. And it's being led by the Colorado Missing and Murdered Task Force, I believe. And so there's going to be an MMIP ride during the Durango Four Corners rally. And I know that in later September in Rio Doso, the Mescalero Apache in New Mexico they are having an MMIP ride also during they have a little bike week weekend. It's great. Ruidoso is a beautiful place. It's in the mountains in the high desert, which means it has trees and kind of alpine. It's so cool. And they're going to be having a ride also.
Wow. So that's another thing that struck me. I'm not very worldly. And on the 54-day ride, like you said, it involved, educated Indigenous women, business women. Like Charmaine is a businesswoman, amazing, strong businesswoman. Like, and I loved what you said about how we need to show the whole of us, to the world. So this is about that as well. Before we move on, I'm just sort of jumping all over, but another powerful, it's just coming to me now, so I'm going to share it because it's not just us. Um, I go to the washroom a lot. And so Charmaine was in the lead, and she got used to me needing to go, and we were coming over this overpass, and there's a gas station, and she pointed down, like, did I need the gas? Did I need and I said, yeah, I need to stop. So we pulled off, and we were in Georgia somewhere, and I've never been the minority outside of white minority. Like, I've never been minority in a black space, and so that was everywhere in Georgia was so amazing for me. Anyways, we pulled into this gas station, and she said, um, "We'll take turns going to the bathroom. You watch the bike, and we'll take turns, eh? Because there's bad people everywhere, and the bike's all we had at that point." And so I was just sitting out there, and she went in, and she came back, and holy smokes, and something, whatever. And she says, you see that black woman in there with the pink shirt and or whatever color her shirt was? And I was like, yeah. And she said, she's going to come out and talk to us. And so our thing was, Charmaine and I's thing was, if you made eye contact with us, we told you about MMIW
Mm.
issues. I don't care who you were, gas station where we were, restaurant, like, we talked to so many people. Make eye contact, you're getting the speech, eh? And so the woman came out, and we had tied ribbons on the bike. I had the idea of tying, it came to me to tie the ribbons onto the bike before we left Canada, starting with my husband's sister, Barbara Jack, was killed in the Yukon when she was 14. Anyways,
So sorry.
so yeah, it's very sad, very sad. Anyway, so I said we should tie ribbons, and so that's what we did. And so then the black woman came out, and she said, my son was just shot last night. She said, my son was killed last night. And she said, I know my son, could have lived a different life. But she said, what your friend here told me about your life in Canada as Native American, or whatever she called us as Indians, it's the same for us as blacks. She said, it's the same for us. And she said, and she hadn't slept yet, and she just had the news. And so she said, can I write my son's name? It still chokes me up. She said, can I write my son's name? Yes. And so she wrote his nick. I saved, took her picture, you know, yeah, like, so powerful,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
powerful.
I just can't imagine a pain worse than a mother losing a child. I really, really can't.
That's when I don't ever want to know I have lots of kids.
Hmm. Yeah.
Anyways, I didn't expect to get emotional.
It is
Um,
emotional,
yeah.
that's the heart and spirit coming through to like
Yeah,
raise a flag of importance.
it is important. Yeah, it's important that people understand that there's an actual family and human beings that are grieving, and the grieving doesn't go away. What my husband's taught me is that it diminishes, so that you're not overwhelmed in the moment as much,
Mhm.
as in the beginning, eh?
Mhm.
So we have a few minutes left, and I'd like to hear about your Chinese practice, your medicine, because that's so
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, share with us
S-
about that.
I would love to because I think that Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine, is a highly underutilized tool. So, several years ago, when I was in college, I was studying counseling because I was really interested in treating. Um, well, I'm sort of a fixer. If I see a problem, I want to fix it, and I was studying counseling, And I was really interested in treating PTSD, post-traumatic stress, because I see how it affects so many people. I see how it inhibits us. And I know that we can get past it, and so counseling is one of those ways. And I was working for a community mental health center as a project manager and an event coordinator. So I was a professional event coordinator for professional development. And one of the things was bringing in this training for ear acupuncture. And it's 5 needles in each ear, which paraprofessionals can learn in order to treat addiction, to reduce cravings, to reduce anxiety, to help the detox process. And it was created by a doctor in the Bronx like a couple of decades ago. But it's so effective. And our outpatient treatment clients were saying, ever since I started this acupuncture, I've never been able to get clean in any treatment center until acupuncture was a part of my program. And I feel so much better. I sleep better. I have more patience with my children. Can you also help my shoulder pain? Can you also help my back pain? Da da da. So I loved the 4-day training we took. I just absorbed it like a sponge. And when I found out that it also treats post-traumatic stress, because that is stored in your body, in your energy system, and you can use acupuncture to treat post-traumatic stress without dredging up the story, without
Mm,
dredging up the feelings, without like reliving it. You can just treat your body on the level of your body's energy, and it helps to be more centered, to calm your sympathetic nervous system. And it's amazing. It's completely amazing. And I went to view this school, and my started taking science classes as the prerequisites. And my counseling advisor said, "What are you doing, Shelly? You don't need these science classes for your counseling degree." And I didn't want to tell him because of that approval, right? Oh God, I'm doing something he's not going to want me to do. I'm not doing what he thinks I should do. I'm doing what I want to do. And I said, "Well, I have to tell you, I'm thinking about going to acupuncture school to be a doctor of Chinese medicine." And he was like, "Shelly, that is perfect for you." And he pulled out a card, and it was a card for the school that I had just visited. And he's like, "You
oh,
need to talk to this person." And I was like, "I just did." And we were both like goosebumps, and this is like perfect. And he's Dr. John Bordet. He ran a chemical dependency counseling program at Western New Mexico University. He was a great
wow.
mentor. And he really emphasized higher education. He said, you need to get higher education. You need to get to the decision making table of every place decisions are being made. And
Yeah.
I think that that's really true. And so I did it. And now I am a doctor of Oriental medicine. I've had several private practices from Hawaii to DC, New Mexico. And acupuncture is a way to treat the whole body as a whole body. There are no disconnected parts. And it's treating body, mind, and spirit in each treatment. It doesn't matter if you have migraines, stomach aches, anxiety, insomnia. All of that can be treated in one session. And a lot of things I used to think were normal. Like, doesn't everybody wake up 15 times tossing and turning? No, they don't. Doesn't everybody get bloated and tired after they eat? No, they don't. Um, so many things you just start to live with it, and
Yeah.
now the type of acupuncture I do, I can treat almost everything just with needles in the hands and feet. So if you have sciatica pain,
Wow.
it's a needle in the hand. If you have migraines, it's a needle in the foot. And when I say needle, these are hair thin and solid. They're not hollow and painful. So oftentimes you don't even need them. My school specialized in this very gentle Japanese technique, and really
Mm,
powerful.
mm.
Now I
Amazing.
work full time in Indian Health Service. All hospitals in the United States, because of the opioid crisis, all hospitals are now required to offer non-pharmacological pain management in order to keep their accreditation. And that
Huh.
was enacted about 5 years ago, which is when I got my job at this hospital.
Wow. Huh. That's
Yeah.
you just gave me another thought. Um, a new thought because I'm and as my part of my practice right now, I'm with a firm, Napoli Law, that was involved in the opioid litigation in the United States. I don't know if you've heard the on Disney Plus the series Dope Sick.
I
It
haven't.
You should watch it. It's about
Yeah.
six. and it documents the basically the investigation that led up to the criminal conviction of the Shackler family. And so the firm I'm with, Napoli, they were consulted on the creation of that series because they've been involved in the litigation. And um, so they came up to Canada and have started a firm in Canada and recruited me last December. And I was like, no, no, after the whole Indian day school getting burnt and all that, I'm like, I'm so done with the white law. Like, blow it out your ass, like whatever. I'm fucking done. And so they were like, no, no, a lot of people respect you. And I'm like, whatever. And so I had so many conversations. I was like, ah, just all bitchy. And finally, so I joined them. And the major piece of litigation that I'm working on is about the opioid crisis. And I'm so glad to talk to you today because it had not occurred to me that we need to be getting funds for our nations to be able to create, how did you call them,
Non-pharmacological.
non-pharmacological training for our
Yeah.
people who want to, not just in our own ceremonial, we need to support our own ceremonial development, because people, when they're like back in the day, we looked after each other, and if someone was learning to be quote unquote a medicine man or woman, they had a family that looked after them, so they didn't need to be paid. But today we don't look after each other very good anymore.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
who is going to put gas in your medicine woman's bike or car or
Hmm.
truck? Well, you're going to do that as a
Hmm.
patient. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's not traditional. That's so terrible. I'm like, whatever. Fuck, go where, whatever. So we need to create resources to develop our own healing mechanisms, including like what you're doing. Like, it would be so great to
Yeah.
have more
I am
indigenous.
I am so glad that I have a salary and I personally don't have to make a decision about charging people because
Nice.
it is really tough. I had a sliding scale practice when I was in New Mexico. And because I know some people can afford more and some people can't, but I still want them to have access to feel better. But I still have a student loan to pay, rent to pay, bills to pay, insurance
Yeah,
to pay, supplies to pay.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So that was really good. I'm really glad that you
Yeah.
generated that thought in my mind. I'm going to bring it up next Wednesday at the legal meeting at the team. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it keeps people out of the ER also. I mean, acupuncture does. Because if you can, for migraines, for instance, a lot of people end up in the emergency room because their migraine is so terrible, they need some kind of a shot. But with acupuncture, the frequency and the intensity can greatly reduce. I'm talking 80, 90, 100% reduction.
Mm,
And it just changes people's lives. I've had people cry in my office because they had never not been in pain for years, or they've
mm.
never been able to move their arm enough to get into a shirt or snap their bra or
Wow.
whatever. And then a little acupuncture and they have their body back again.
Tell us about that cup I see once in a while when you're leaning forward on your shoulder there.
Is it
Could you,
still on there? Oh my God, it is still on there. This is
what
a
is that?
suction cup. So this is one of the methods. And so I'm putting it on my shoulder because I've been riding so much, just hanging on to the throttle that my arm is just tightened up. And so this is going to help improve blood flow and then decrease inflammation and all the tiny muscle fibers that are all stuck together, just help to loosen them up so that
Uh,
my arm can move more freely.
okay.
So this is one technique. The acupuncture is a technique. Chinese herbal medicine is a technique. My first teacher said well, in my case, our case, when the American people find out how good Chinese herbs are, they're going to be really pissed off. So these herbs have been used for thousands of years, and they are so simultaneously subtle. You don't feel like you're just took something, but your symptoms have just eased away. And I have seen them. I have one formula I call the marriage saver because it is so good at reducing anger and frustration.
Huh.
It's
Wow.
amazing. Mhm.
Huh. That's so
Hot
amazing.
flashes, digestive issues, insomnia. These Chinese herbs have been, tested for thousands of years. I don't know anything really about Western herbs. A lot of people think of them like that. I've tried
Mhm.
them and they're like chamomile tea. I'm like, okay. But with the Chinese herbs, I'm just like, wow, this thing I was just taking pharmaceuticals for is done. It's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left. I'd like to invite you to just, I don't know, just share whatever. Whatever about whatever. Let's have a conversation about whatever.
Well, Joan, I want to say I'm so grateful for knowing you. I feel like our meeting was a spiritual meeting
Mm,
and a sisterly meeting. And I'm, so proud of what you're doing, constantly putting one foot in front of the other to create things for the people, opportunities for people, and to continue expressing yourself. It's really inspirational.
mm,
And this having this podcast with more Indigenous conversations is really wonderful because we need more representation and amplification of Indigenous voices. And
mm,
so I'm thankful for you for that.
mm,
Um, I'm here in Sturgis, South Dakota at the rally, which has a lot of has a bad reputation, but I want to tell you that I've hiked Bear Butte Mountain, which is a sacred place to pray. I've gotten involved with the local recovery community. I attend meetings and I've gone to speak at the treatment center. I was asked if I would come and like, yeah, okay, this is my vacation, but
mm,
also it's great to be of service and it's great to remember where I came from. And
mhm,
it's great to support these people who right now there's just this influx of people and party energy and all that. And to let people know that there is a time in your life when you are getting sober and clean that you can start to go in the places where alcohol and drugs are if your motives are clear, you have the right support around you. I'm not here to catch a vicarious buzz from
mm.
anybody who's doing any of that. And we're all on vehicles, so there's a lot more not drinking than there is drinking. Riding the Black Hills is a beautiful experience. I think everybody should come here at some point in time.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I loved seeing it. I only saw it the once after the in 2018 after the Wounded Knee run. We came through Sturgis there, and it blew me away. Like I think whether you ride a bike or not, it's like a sight to see. Like it's like
Yeah.
really something. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, a lot of live music. Also, if you're a music fan, there's live music
Hmm.
all over the place. And there's just people just letting loose. Everybody's here because they love to ride a motorcycle. They're taking their vacation from their job. So everybody's in really good spirits.
Yeah.
And it's a fun energy to be around.
For sure. I'd like to also invite you to give your husband a bit of a shout out because he's a pretty interesting guy. I
Yes,
mean, when he rides his bike taking videos of you, there were times when my husband would say, he calls it tight ass. Like, I got so tight ass. I'm like, the fucking guy's going to crash, man. Oh,
oh my gosh. Yes, he's getting a little infamous because his name is Olivier Touron. He is from France and I met him in Sturgis 5 years ago. So this is an extra special place for us and he was doing a story on some people I know, taking portraits. We stayed in touch through Facebook and then we just couldn't stop talking to each other and finally he moved here, we got married. So he is also one of 15 invited artists to showcase their work at the Motorcycles as Art um, show at the Buffalo Chip. And so, of all the people he knows like the most famous bike builders in the industry, the up and coming, he just knows everybody and everybody knows him. He chose to showcase the Medicine Wheel Ride photos of all of our motorcycle trips as we've been moving all over the land, which is it's just so great. So that's at the Buffalo Chip Motorcycles Art Show right now.
wow.
He's also a freelance writer for several magazines, American Rider, Revolution in Canada, which you are in an issue, Joan, that was published last year, and Freeway Magazine of France, as well as Moto Heroes.
Mhm.
He was in the Harley Davidson Enthusiast last month. So he's a storyteller, through photojournalism and storytelling.
And he's a
And
crazy bike rider.
France has a quite the program. If you want to get a motorcycle license in France, they make you start on a small bike. Like they calibrate you up, and so he has really good motorcycle skills. Yes, he is putting his Road King on cruise control, standing up and turning this way
Yeah,
backwards to take photos of riders.
yeah.
And he's so generous with them too. He's just, for us, he's always just giving them away. He will do professional photos for, some of the bike builders and shops and stuff because they're using them in their commercial work. But for us, we're
Mhm.
friends and we're doing nonprofit work. And so he's
That's so
always
beautiful.
generously giving those to help us tell
Is
the
there
story.
is there a way to see his current that really piqued my interest when you said he's chosen to feature MMI. I don't know what you say that again.
So it's the exhibit is called Motorcycles as Art, and it's 15 artists. And he, I think he called it the Rise of the Medicine Wheel. And it's photos from 2019 to 2023. And just it's us on our motorcycles. It's not necessarily MMIW
Mhm.
exhibit.
No, no,
It's us riding our motorcycles.
yeah,
There's some beautiful photography in there, and you can see it on I should make him put it on his
yeah.
Instagram, which is
I'd love to see.
Otoron,
Yeah, yeah.
or the Medicine Wheel. So please, so I could give some shout outs to that. Follow our social medias, which is always helpful to stay in touch with what we're doing. Olivier is Otoron, that's his name. I'm Acupunk on the road.
People.
The Medicine Wheel ride has its own social media. There's another event we started called Thunderbird Throttle, which happens during Bike Week in Arizona in April. April's a great time to come to Canada. Actually, Cheryl Wood from Canada came down and rode with us last year. It was so
Mm.
wonderful to meet her. She's so cool. Um,
Thunderbird Throttle is in April.
in Arizona.
That
Mhm.
would totally work for me because we go to the
Ooh,
river.
yeah.
We go to the
Okay.
river May 15th. So I think
And
I'm.
yeah, and all of us have extra motorcycles in Arizona. Do I have two? Yeah, I sold one. So I have two motorcycles. A lot of us have a spare. So
Nice.
we can hook you up, Joan.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna have to do that. Yeah, so as we wind down here, this has been such a rich conversation. You're an amazing, beautiful woman, and I thank you for sharing so generously with the world. And um, we've had a few conversations about how our work as powerful women is received, and um, some people like vanilla ice cream, some people like chocolate. It's all good. I mean,
Yeah, what was that thing we said last night when we were talking about this? And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to say that tomorrow on the podcast."
I forget now
I
too.
know, me too. I guess it was just the medicine we needed last night,
Yeah,
but not
yeah.
today.
Well, what I was left with from that conversation is really at the core is my own need for your approval, like the
Hmm.
royal you.
Yeah.
Like if I create a need within myself that you approve of me and then you don't, I'm creating my own pain. Instead of just saying, okay, I don't need your approval, and you're entitled to your opinion of me.
Yeah, I had that happen to me in the last week or two too. Where someone was saying something about me, and I just, when someone is committed to misunderstanding you, like I already know what I want to think
I
about
love
you,
that.
and there is nothing you can do to change my mind.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
like, if that's how you want to label me, I can live with that. For
yeah,
me to be able to say that, I can live with that, and I'm going to keep doing what I do, even though
yeah,
you have this label you
yeah,
want to attach on me.
yeah, yeah.
And
And that's okay because I don't know. I'll share this. Just came to me now. My husband once said to an assistant deputy minister of the Ministry of Children and Family, he said, "Some people think I'm negative." So he said, "How about right now? I'll be negative, you be positive, and together we'll create the spark that's needed for change." You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just what's happening. It's
Hmm.
just what's happening. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm going to close by saying, unless you had another, I heard you take your breath in there.
Girl, I could go on and on and on and on. Let's me and you have a weekly show.
I know, we should. Holy. Well, you're welcome to come back anytime. Um, so my life is all about earrings as well. I mean, it's all about so many of a serious, serious beaded earring addiction.
Yeah,
And
look at mine.
I know yours are so beautiful too.
Sweetgrass in there.
I know. There's a woman in Canada, well, several women in Canada do that too, put the sweetgrass right into the earring. So these earrings are made, I know, hey, aren't they cute? They're
It's
so,
a motorcycle.
yeah, they're just cheesy. I love them.
Oh my God, those are
So, but,
cool.
but they were made from love. Carolyn Cheeky is her name, and she has cheeky beads, I think, like cheek, i.e. beads, and she does a lot of, like, she can make anything in this type of beading. So She made these for me, and I just love them because that's a pretty good rendition of a bike too. You know.
That's really good. That's excellent. I can see from here. They're only this big, and I can see from here. That's beautiful.
There's a lot
Oh,
of. Go
I
ahead.
want to say one more thing because I realized what I should have said about the Thunderbird throttle is that it's headed by Patty Demetrio.
Okay.
And I'm just like a co-producer, I'll bring what I can to the table, but it's headed by Patty Demetrio in a partnership with the Phoenix Indian Center, which is the largest and oldest urban Indian center in the United States. So it's a fundraiser for them, and also the Res Riders of Arizona.
Wow.
So that's really the core team, and they all, they need to be follow their social medias too. Phoenix
I
Indian
will.
Center, the Res Riders, they're a great group.
Okay.
Patty, aka Wildcat.
I'm gonna find that because April would be really good for me, and I could drag
Yeah,
my husband along somehow, and I'm not sure. As
everybody would love to meet you.
Yeah, as we've aged, I don't even like being away from my husband. I mean, I just love his
Mm,
company. He's funny. He laughs
yeah,
at me. He's not scared of me.
yeah. Oh,
He
it's so
thinks,
great to be
he thinks
seen
I'm
and understood.
Yeah, he thinks I'm ridiculous. All right. Well, this has been great. I'm going to end the broadcast, then we can say goodbye offline. All
All
right.
right.
Thank you
Miigwech, everybody.
for coming, yeah.